In the previous videos, I worked the body and sleeves, joined them together on one needle and worked Raglan decreases. If you missed part 1 or part 2, just find the links below in the description and come back here afterwards. But now let us finish the sweater. This part is optional, but I would rather do it because then the back side of the sweater will be a bit higher than the front side and also sit better on the body. However, this elevation is very elementary and doesn't require much of your knitting skills. Let me explain, so the written instructions won't be an obstacle for you. So I stopped after the last decrease by the beginning of the row marker. Next, I want to place turn markers at the places where I will turn my knitting. I have to look at the sleeve stitches between markers and divide them into 3 even parts. For example, here I divided them this way. If you cannot divide evenly, use the biggest numbers closer to the backside. I place all the markers, and as you see, they're different from the regular markers, so I can easily differ them. Then I start with the elevation and knit until the first turn marker, which is farther from the beginning of the row. On the way, I don't do any Raglan decreases as I made them in the previous row. I knit to the marker, I take it off and turn the knitting. Here I will work so-called German turns, but a bit easier. I place the thread in front like this, pull it a bit and replace the last stitch with the right needle. Then I pull the thread a bit harder and wrap around the stitch the way it looks like a stitch with the 2 loops, or looks like a double stitch. Then I will purl all the way to the farthest marker on the other sleeve, but also have to remember about decreases along the Raglan lines. I purl until 2 stitches left before the Raglan. I didn't do any decreases on the right side, therefore I have to do it now. I pick up both stitches through the front loops and purl them together. On the right side, this decrease looks exactly like all the others, so you won't see any difference. Then I keep purling until the turn marker without any decrease, as the previous row already had decreases on the right side, and therefore I don't do them now. Here I find the last marker I need to purl to. When I knit it to the turn marker, I take it off and turn the knitting. On this side, I will do the same trick with the thread. Put it in front and wrap the stitch to be a stitch with a double loop. Now I will knit throughout the row until the next turn marker, and this time I also do all the decreases along the Raglan lines except the last one. I do decreases along this Raglan here. Then I knit until the next marker. Here I do decrease. Then I have a marker beginning of the row. And after it, I don't decrease as I've made one when I was purling. So here I just keep knitting until the turn marker. As before, I take off the marker, turn the knitting and make a wrap stitch here. Then I will purl and again make one decrease before the beginning of the row. I insert the needles through the front loops and purl them together. I keep on purling until the last turn marker. Here I take off the marker, turn the knitting and work the last row of the elevation. On the way I do decreases along the Raglan lines and stop by the beginning of the row. Now my elevation is complete. It's just a very short, almost insignificant elevation, especially for bigger sizes, but still preferably to have. While doing it, I've also decreased 8 stitches in total. Now I knit one row without any changes. All wrap stitches that I left, I knit as one stitch. Just to knit them through the front loops like this. Lastly, before I start the neck, I need to evenly decrease some stitches. The number of them you can find in the pattern. Using, as always, decrease calculator, I find instructions on how to distribute them evenly. Instructions are pretty much the same as with the increases, you just see where and how often you need to decrease stitches. For working the neck, I take first of all small needles. And then just make one knit, one purl rib, which is already known to you. Here's a simple part of the sweater and we are almost finished with it. When I reach a height of 3-4 centimeters, I can simply bind off the edge or make it tubular as I did it with the sleeve edge. If you want to learn this technique and you like how neat it looks, don't hesitate to check the detailed video with explanations. Otherwise, you can bind off the edge the method you prefer the most. The last thing which is important to do before I start weaving all the ends is to seal the armholes that we left here. Again, for this part, I have a detailed video explanation. I'll leave the link here and in the description below. My sweater is ready. I just need to weave the ends and then block it. I take a crochet and one by one weaving all loose ends into existing stitches. When it comes to the loose threads I left by the edges of the armpits, I leave them much longer and weave them better than the other, because when you or your kids take the sweater on, every time exactly this place will be under the hardest stretching, and if the ends are too short, then they will end up sticking out, or in the worst case, some of the stitches will be released. I had this situation many times on the kids' sweaters and had to fix my armpits again and again. So just leave the thread longer, at least 6-8 centimeters. Some long loops I pull through the closest stitches to reduce the size of the hole they make and distribute the excessive length. I keep weaving the ends and meet you when everything is ready. The blocking part I show very seldom, and now I'm going to do it. Let me go through the main points of it. I fill up the sink with lukewarm water, about 30-40 degrees, and put there my sweater. Then I'm carefully squeezing it many times in different places. Some knitters like using here washing remedies for wool, but I'm using just water. Then I want to prepare my knitting for blocking. I need to squeeze out as much water as possible from the sweater without twisting the garment. I let the water flow down, wait a bit and squeeze carefully again. Now I want to put the sweater the way it should eventually look, and I use a towel that will absorb the excessive water. The sweater shall be formed exactly the way it is supposed to look like, and then I will leave it dry. When everything looks good, I leave knitting to dry. It can take up to 2-3 days before it will be completely dry, but I also turn it to the other side in about 5-8 hours. When the knitting has been dried, you will see that the stitches look more even and neat. Next, I do the last step, ironing. This part seems scary for some people because they are afraid of destroying the whole sweater, but don't worry, we will do it carefully. First, I put a soft towel over the ironing board so that when I start ironing, the yarn will not become flat on the other side. I set the iron on 2 and steam mode. However, if you have even a small synthetic percentage in the yarn, set it on 1. I use ironing just to secure the result and refine the stitch appearance. So the important thing is not to put the iron with all its weight on the knitting, because the stitches will immediately become flat. I start with the front and back sides and carefully move the iron barely touching the surface. Then I unfold the sides of the sweater and do carefully the same here, as after drying it has folds here. The last thing is to iron sleeves and especially shoulders. Here I'm going to use my small towels, but for adult size I can also use bigger towels. I roll it and put it inside. Now I can iron from all sides of the sleeve without making folds. Lastly, I put the towel under the shoulder and iron carefully here. If it is still squeezed, I help stretch it a bit and secure the result. If you see the yoke or raglan being squeezed, of course you do the same with them. In the end, I will have a nice looking sweater. Thank you for watching this video tutorial. I hope it is helpful for you regardless of which pattern you work on, mine or any other with raglan construction. I gave you many tips and went with you through all the steps, hopefully making it more understandable. I would highly appreciate if you leave your like or comment below to make my channel grow and consequently make me create more videos with patterns. I know I'm not the most effective person in these terms, but I try to do my best. See you next time!